I remember distinctly a local competition in Colorado where 700 pounds was loaded on the bar for my last deadlift, and I got the bar pretty close to lockout before tearing a callus wide open and failing to lift on grip strength. In 2019, the same thing happened on my final pull, which would have pushed me over a 900 kilo total, a 2,000 pound total, and would have pushed the unofficial world record total even higher. This was the battle against Ashton and Mikey D and a bunch of the other great athletes in the 105 kilo weight class. Ever since that first missed deadlifting competition, I've started to take grip strength more seriously. When we look at other training weaknesses, it makes sense to take whatever your limiting factor is in getting stronger and prioritizing that. I hear about a dozen different strategies for how to grip the bar, and I'm simply here to share what's worked for me as someone who used to struggle holding 700 pounds to someone who can now hold 794 pounds confidently in training. This is a process that took trial and error and is a result of other accommodations I've had to make in my training process. I'm here to tell you about how to improve grip, why it matters, and what's been the most effective for me. It's cliche to say it, but I get asked this question relatively frequently. So, let's dig in. First, a few basic facts. 1, I use straps in training. In fact, I use straps quite a lot in training. For most of my deadlift work above doubles and triples, I'm using straps so they don't rip my hands, and so that I'm capable of getting in more training volume without setbacks. I think straps are a fantastic tool, and I think that a lot of the hate for straps, VersaGrips, figure eights, etc. is unfounded. There are a few truths that there might hold merit. 1, especially if the way you use straps sits the bar very low in your hand, your maxes and training loads may be giving you a false sense of what you're really capable of. By deadlifting with a low hand position, you basically maximize your leverages and temporarily become Yuri Belkin. No wonder your training numbers are up 10 to 30 pounds above normal. You change your leverages for the better and took grip out of the equation for why you're missing lifts. I think straps also let you keep your arms more relaxed, which is a great teaching tool, by the way, for proper technique, which lets athletes drop their shoulders a bit and puts their back in a more upright position, and therefore they're better able to lift more weight. I found that when I pull with mixed grip too much, something about the way I deadlift causes me to tweak my left side erectors relatively frequently and relatively reliably too. Every time we run a heavy training cycle and I'm doing mixed grip work on sets of 5 and under, from doing that type of work too much, I end up experiencing these types of left side erector strains that just kind of sideline training. So why would we continue that way? Using straps kind of keeps that at bay, but it also has the unintended consequence of weakening my grip. I've toyed with hook grip just a bit, but know enough that it's probably not for me. If you're interested in hook grip, please check out a fantastic video from Big Bryce, aka Bryce Krachek, on how to hook grip. Link that in the description below. If you are able to mix grip all of your working sets, no straps required, then fantastic. You can probably end this video, as your deadlift training alone should prepare you to grip what you need to. For everyone else, we're in the situation of needing to use straps to keep muscle strains at bay, or needing to use straps for other reasons, not to tear your hands, the fact that your training requires you to do higher reps, etc., and needing to do grip work to balance out the other side of that equation. Lastly, before we get into it, this is outside the conversation on exactly how to grip the bar. You might be tearing calluses because you're gripping too deeply, not squeezing the bar hard enough, gripping too wide or too narrow, and so on. Those problems tend to be more individualized, but I might make a video on that in the future about exactly how I grip the bar as a starting point for you. Grip strength is progressive. Like many other aspects of training, it doesn't make sense to think about your grip strength as equally strong year-round. Just like you can be more prepared for singles when you're doing more singles in your training, you can be more prepared for heavy lifts when you're gripping more often with heavier loading. This means you might want to take grip training more seriously, closer to a competition, and less seriously farther away from competition. Or just take it seriously throughout the year if there's no negative impact on the rest of your training. What I'm saying is, periodize your grip work. The more grip work you do closer to a meet or a max attempt, or any time where you need your hands not to be a limiting factor, and less grip work when priorities are different. Number 2, exercise variation exists for grip work. Not all grip strength exercises are created equally. It makes sense that grip work is specific too. You might be able to rock climb all day and night, which is heavy on hands, obviously, but miss even 90% on grip strength if trained inappropriately. This is similar to an athlete doing sets of 15 and being really efficient at sets of 15, and that same athlete struggling with their triples. It's just a matter of what you've been doing in training relatively recently. So we want your grip training work to mimic what we want the demands of the grip strength training specifically to be. We want to select exercises that look a lot like a max deadlift without any of the actual deadlifting, because you're doing that too. Basically, we want to just train the grip and not worry too much about fatiguing the back muscles, the lower back muscles, the glutes, the quads, so that you're able to get through the rest of your training. We might make use of a few other strategies too, but the principle of specificity seems to hold for grip work quite well. Number 3, hand care matters. I'm lumping how not to tear a callus in with grip strength because the two are so intertwined. You want calluses, but you want soft, supple calluses that aren't a mountain of dead skin on your hands. Those types of calluses are less likely to tear. I use a product called Ripped Skin Systems, which I originally found from Rogue, that contains a pumice stone and 2 moisturizers, one for daily use and one for right after if you happen to tear your hand. During the heavy training leading into a competition, I do hand care about 3 times a week, the day before my deadlift sessions, to keep calluses in check. And it's been working fantastically, and the athletes who I send it to, it's also been working fantastically with them as well. Basically, you sand down your calluses with the stone under running water, and then use the chapstick-like moisturizer on top of that. The whole process takes like 3 minutes at most. And really goes a long way. So what you want is like these soft, supple calluses that don't kind of mount up with a bunch of dead skin, that can pull on the bar when you're gripping and the bar starts to slide just a little bit. All right. So we know we need something specific and periodized. What's worked best for me is heavy barbell holds in the 8 or so weeks leading into competition, once or twice a week on days that I'm not deadlifting, or time of 18 seconds or less. I'll set up a barbell in a rack and warm it up in a way similar to the way I'd warm up my deadlift, with plate jumps that make sense and less time on the warm-ups leading into one main working set. The idea is to select a weight as close to RPE 10 for the listed time and progress that weight week to week. Use a conventional deadlift stance just so the glutes and adductors aren't at risk. We're really only training the grip here, remember. You may find, like I do, that you're comically bad at this to start off, but quickly get better. It's important to make sure you use your belt, listen to hype music if that's your thing, and take the sets very seriously, just like a competition deadlift. I typically start off with one maximal set of 16 seconds, dropping 2 seconds a week as I head toward competition. So that's 16, 14, 12, 10, and 8. Sometimes there's a reset period in there where we bring the reps back, or the seconds back up to 12 or something before progressing downwards again. And ultimately our goal is to hold our max for more than 8 seconds. If you can do that, I'm pretty confident you'll be great in competition, combined with doing some of your actual deadlifting without straps as well. You can couple this with heavy holds on your non-strapped competition deadlift work as well, which you should be increasing in frequency close to competition as you're naturally handling heavier loads and lower reps. You might hold your last rep of your last set for time, either for max time or for 6 seconds or so to increase time with that position. So your normal training calls for like 3 sets of 3 at 85 to 90%. And on your last set of 3, on your very last rep, you stand at lockout for a little while and squeeze the bar super tight before bringing the bar down, essentially squeezing in extra grip work without too much consequence. I've also had athletes do dumbbell farmer's walks with a maximal time to walk as a way of performing grip work, but I find that getting heavy enough dumbbells are the limiting factor before we're actually getting solid grip training, at least for athletes who have max deadlifts over, let's say, 550 pounds. Most gyms don't have dumbbells that go above, let's say, 120 pounds, and you'd really be pushing that for some grip work on farmer's walks. So rather to do a heavy barbell hold rather than something like a farmer's walk specifically for powerlifting. If we're talking about grip strength for other things, for sure we have more options. With a little patience and some effort, adding in heavy barbell holds and some long holds on a few last reps, plus making sure all your doubles and singles in the last 6 weeks are done without straps, you can make sure your grip is exactly where it needs to be on game day. Balance this with some hand care, and you can use straps guilt-free in training. If you have some tips you've picked up on your own for things that have improved your grip, drop them below in the comments so others can see. And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing so that you can see more content like this up ahead. Thanks so much. Hope you guys have a good day. Bye.